Welcome to My Morning Cup, a podcast produced by Costa Media Advisors and presented by Rockpoint Bank and EPB. Rockpoint Bank, from Chattanooga for Chattanooga. And EPB, get EPB's fiber optics for the world's fastest community-wide internet. I'm Mike Costa, your host. My guest this week is Dr. Dan Challener. Dan is the president of Public Education Forward and is one of the most influential educators in our region. Dan, before we peel back the onion and find out why education is really economic development, let me ask, what's in your morning cup?
Well, right now it's your coffee, which is absolutely wonderful. Appreciate that.
Wow, wonderful. I don't know if I've ever heard that. It was a little delayed, too, because I have a problem getting that machine to work.
So, yeah, I'm a big coffee drinker.
What do you normally drink and how?
Well, we're big fans of Chat, which is local company. Used to be right across the street from us. And now where I work, Public Education Forward, they provide us and all our guests who are all teachers.
Yeah.
Chat's coffee.
Oh, nice. How do you prefer it?
I'm ashamed to say I really like milk and coffee and sugar in my coffee.
Do you really?
I do.
But you're drinking it black today. I guess you didn't want to burden me, huh?
Well, I am fearful of non-dairy creamer. And so I didn't want to have to say, no. So I just had it black.
Well, I would be fearful, too. I drink it black, and I think I told you earlier that I've been a decaf guy for probably the last 8 years, and I can't tell the difference. Maybe it's I don't have any taste buds or whatever, but black gets me going.
Well, I think for me, the caffeine is what gets me going, too, so
Yeah.
I can't imagine decaf. I'm told there's some good decaf out there, but I wouldn't know.
There is, and I think, yeah, the caffeine's important for me, but I think what's kind of replaced that is just the routine and the aromas and everything else that says it's time to get going.
I don't think there's been a morning in the last 30 years that hasn't started with coffee for me. I really don't.
Yeah, not a bad way to start.
That's a great way.
What is your morning routine?
My morning routine, so it depends. I can't sleep past first light. So I'm up early.
I'm with you.
If I'm going into work, it's one routine. But on weekends and holidays, I get up and I exercise. Right now, I'm at a point in my life where I go for an hour walk.
Nice.
And I don't listen to anything. I'm one of those rare people who just goes out without a headset. And I've got different walks that I take. And then I come back and I'm a newspaper guy.
Yeah.
I read 2 or 3 newspapers every morning. And
Reading them online?
yeah, I don't get anything at print anymore.
They don't print anything anymore.
Yeah, but I love reading newspapers. It's just a hobby.
But your point on the morning walk with no music or anything, or even listening to a podcast, although my morning cup would be a good one to listen to. But I'm the same way. You know, if I'm walking the neighborhood, I don't want the ancillary noise. And I've learned that I don't like people who bring speakers to the beach. Why are you at the beach? You know, you want to hear the waves. You want to hear this. And I used to listen to music on the golf course, and I don't even like that anymore. I just like not having it.
One of the things that I find, I love to hike. And one of the things that has happened in the last 5 years is groups of people hiking with music. And they'll have somebody with a projecting music for the whole group. And it's like, wow, I really didn't come out here to listen to your music. I want the time to reflect and just to think and not be sort of influenced by what someone else is listening to.
Well, and that's a great point. We're not here to talk about this, but there's an assumption for people who bring speakers to the beach that everyone wants to hear their music.
Right.
If you want to hear it, put on some headphones.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I want to hear the ocean.
That's right.
Well, we're here to talk about you, Dan. And I always like to start where you start, which is the beginning. You're born in Princeton, New Jersey?
Yeah, I was born in Central Jersey, as the joke goes, exit 8 on the Jersey Turnpike. And Princeton's a college town.
Right.
So my dad was a college professor.
At Princeton?
He was, yeah. And my mom was a teacher, so you can begin to sort of get the sense of what.
So education's pretty deep in your family.
Yeah.
And you've got two sisters?
I've got two sisters.
And they're both?
One lifetime teacher and another is a teacher. And guess who I'm married to? A Hamilton County teacher, right.
You know, you're in the minority of guests we've had on this podcast in their career arcs, because most people aren't doing what they either thought they'd be doing or what they went to school for, or because, you know, you get out of school, you got to get a job. But I found, particularly teachers, that education sets in at a very young age. Can you talk about that a little bit in your household?
Yeah, that's interesting, because I would say I didn't follow in what I thought, because I really wanted to be a teacher. My parents were really committed to teaching, and my father taught for 51 years at the same institution. My mother taught
51 years at Princeton.
51 years at Princeton.
My goodness.
Yeah, he was legendary. He was a great teacher. I'll tell you a story there that is meaningful to me. So he got into college. He's a brilliant man. He was first in his class. And then Pearl Harbor happened, and he enlisted. And, you know, he thought he was going to be an attorney, go into law, make money. And he was, you know, he enlisted and ended up in the 102nd Division and Ozark Division, and into France about 2 months after D-Day. But, you know, actually, I brought it today because on special days, I bring it. Today's my birthday. This is my dad's watch. And if you look at the back of it, is his name.
Very cool.
And that's his dog tag number, 121354416.
How old is this watch?
Well, this is what is kind of chilling. Before he went overseas, his father took him to I guess it was a jewelry store, you know, a great big department store in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and bought him a watch because, you know, he was going overseas, thought he should have a watch. But, I mean, the chilling part, right, is put his dog tag number on it, because that's one of the ways they identified bodies. So, I mean, he went overseas, saw just significant combat. An awful lot of the people he was with were killed. And he changed his mind about becoming an attorney. He wanted to teach. He taught American diplomacy. He taught diplomacy for 50 years. Not that, that the focus on how sometimes you have to go to war, but make sure you exhaust everything before you go to war, because it's ugly. Yeah. And he lived through that. He's very lucky to have come back alive, and so he taught diplomacy for 50 years. He
learned that experience and wanted to share it with others.
Yeah, and he had the authority of sort of seeing both things. I mean, it's what he was doing, that he wasn't a part of it, but the Ozarks, I mean, they liberated a couple of concentration camps, so they saw the horrors of what they were fighting to destroy, right? But sometimes you have to go to war, but make sure you've exhausted every possible thing before you send people to experience what he experienced.
What a great lesson.
Yeah, so it was meaningful to me. I was thinking this morning what we were going to talk about, and I thought, this is my birthday. I want to have my dad with me, so I brought his watch with me.
I thought you said it's your birthday. Happy birthday. I didn't realize we were good.
It's hard to believe I'm 45. So.
You look pretty good. You look pretty good for 45.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. I'm 87. I look better.
You look better at 87. Huh?
Absolutely. I would imagine that watch is probably your most valuable possession.
I would agree.
Yeah,
I would agree. I've had it forever, and I just on days like when my older son got married, it was in my pocket. It's it's on days that I really want to bring my dad along that I have his watch.
That is great. That's a great story, and it's a beautiful watch. I can see why you just cherish it.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's talk a little more about your family and growing up in New Jersey.
Yeah.
I don't think I know New Jersey has an image problem. What's it like growing? What's the good side of New Jersey for people who have never been, and just all that's in their mind is what's across the river from New York City?
Yeah. So I would make the observation that I lived in Rhode Island for 20 years, and I've lived here for 30 years. So I, too, have voted with my feet. But New Jersey growing up, I mean, it's a small state, but we lived on the western side, which is actually, I think their license plate is still the Garden State.
It is.
The western edge is a lot of farms, and where we lived, it's an hour and a half from New York City, so it was more rural and university than the part that where Newark Airport is, and that everybody comes through. So it was a little bit different, and I would say for that whole region, but especially for Princeton, the public schools were they're extraordinarily good, and the community really cared, as you would expect in a university community, really cared about public schools and
you were in public schools.
I was in public schools, and it was it's just an amazing town to grow up in. Didn't really realize it's what you know.
Yeah.
I didn't realize
You're in the middle
what
of
I had.
You knew nothing different.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that public education in terms of what you and your friends would do for fun. What were the extracurricular activities? How did you spend your summers, part-time jobs, that kind of thing?
Yeah. I had a paper route, the Trenton Times, for 4 years, and
did you have a bike and deliver papers?
Yep, and the sack.
The sack. Were you pretty good at throwing?
Yeah, and actually, I did that wrong. You always do it underhand. You do them over it. They don't
tear
go
your
the same
shoulder
way.
up.
Well, they don't go nearly as accurately. Underhand
really?
is the way. Yeah, though I don't think anybody cares anymore. But I
they
could
throw iPads.
I could get it on the welcome mat in the middle. I mean that.
Oh yeah.
Anyhow,
would that affect your Christmas tip?
Probably. I hadn't really thought about it. You knew they were all your neighbors.
Yeah.
And you do that every day for 4 years. You get pretty good at it. But the thing as a kid that I was most engaged with was running. I started running in middle school and ran through high school and college and beyond.
So you like running?
I used to. I've had some health issues. I can't run anymore. I loved running.
See, I couldn't run the day I came out of the womb. I hate running.
No, I was a distance runner, and I loved. I felt a joy when I ran, and my best friends from high school and college and beyond. I coached, paid for graduate school by coaching distance running for almost 10 years, and I'm still in touch with a whole bunch of the guys I coached.
So as a kid growing up in high school, you're involved with the track team, you're running. What is, as you got closer to those college decisions, what is it you want it to be? You had two strong influences with your parents as educators, and obviously your sisters went in that direction, and you thought you would go in that direction.
Well, I had a really important experience, which at the time, it was just luck. But there was a summer camp for kids from the Trenton Public Schools, an opportunity for kids who were behind in school to improve their skills and also have some recreational opportunities. It was a really nice mix of school and recreation. And I think I was sophomore year in high school. I got the opportunity to be on the staff there, and for the next 5 summers, I was in that camp and just got to work with and know they're just amazing young kids, and I think important in my life was sort of seeing just how different the opportunities were that I had versus the opportunities that so many of these kids from inner city Trenton had. And, it's a pretty obvious thing, but for a 15-year-old or a 16-year-old, I think that was something that really affected what I wanted to do, and what I saw what as a kid growing up in Princeton, all the opportunities that I had, and then when I was working at this camp with the kids from Trenton, just how different the opportunities were, and that sort of, not to jump too far ahead, but that experience happened a number of times in my life where I just saw how much difference quality public schools could make or not make. And at the time, I just needed a summer job.
Right.
Right. And I had cut enough lawns and delivered enough newspapers that anything was infinitely better than another year of cutting lawns. So I took this job with that summer camp school. And in a lot of ways, looking back, it changed my life.
Really did. Had a big effect on you. I would imagine it helped formulate that statement that education is economic development.
It is. And I think, you don't know how important it is until you get out and through it.
Yeah.
And then you realize, wow.
So you're doing the counseling and you're coming up for college.
Counseling may oversell what I was doing. But yes, let's say I was a camp counselor. Sure.
You were the head counselor, Dan.
I forgot that.
But you're coming up on your college decision. How do you decide where to go and what you want to study?
Okay, so I grew up in Princeton. My dad taught at Princeton. I was a very good student in high school, and I was a very good runner. Everybody kept asking me, where are you going? Where are you going? I said, I don't know where I'm going, but the one place that I will not go to is Princeton.
Famous last words.
Famous last words. Boy, did I have to eat those. Because when it all came down to it, I mean, some of it was, it's all very frightening, the idea of moving away and all. And, honestly, the coach at Princeton was Larry Ellis. He became the U.S. Olympic coach in '84. An amazing man and an amazing program. And I just decided that was the place where maybe as a runner I could be the best I could be. And then Princeton academically, I'd seen what my father, I'd seen what my father as a loved professor, but he always had his students come to the house for seminars every year. Kids were coming in and out of the house, and it just struck me as, wow, this is a special place.
This sounds like a stupid question, and it probably is. Are Ivy League schools what they're cracked up to be?
I have no idea.
But Princeton is.
My experience was terrific, but that sadly that was a long time ago.
One of my favorite Princeton alumni stories was former Secretary of State George Shultz was a Princeton alum, and he had the Princeton Tiger tattooed on his hind. Hind end.
Yeah.
And you don't look at George Shultz and go, I bet he's got a tattoo on his rump.
No, but that is I don't know that by anything other than what I've read.
We don't have evidence.
Right.
So you talk about your Princeton years. You decided to go to Princeton. Is it all academic focused? Are you working any part-time jobs?
Well,
I know you're doing track.
A couple of things, yeah. And track it's not really a sport; it's a lifestyle, right? I mean, we have cross country in the fall, indoor track in the winter, spring track, and then if you're really good, you get to run in the summer. But you're just running. There's a week or two where you're not running in the 52 weeks of a year.
Wow.
And it's what you do. It's where your friends are. They're my best friends even now. So that was crucial. But I also was I was a very serious student, and I was one of those people who did the homework assignments, and I wasn't, we worked hard track and field, and I studied hard, and it was a great experience, but it wasn't a wild experience.
Yeah. How about part-time jobs? Did you work while you were in college?
I did. I had to.
The typical?
Well, I'm not sure if it was typical, but this was called portering, but it was basically cleaning the dining halls after meals. And, if you worked fast, they paid you by the job rather than by the hour. So if you worked fast, you could make pretty good money. The problem was when I first started was the year that Animal House came out. Yeah, it wasn't funny. Food fights and all that stuff. And, one of the things you learn very quickly is those big push brooms, they will not move Jell-O. and it just was, it was great to do it by the job, not the hour, when there wasn't a food fight otherwise. But yeah, it did that, and continued in the summer to work at the reading and recreation camp.
And what did you major in?
English.
Where did you see that taking you? Or is that just to lay a base?
It took me exactly where I wanted to go, right? I taught high school and coached track and field after college. That was my first job.
We'll talk about that.
It was
your first job. Where was it?
It was in Hightstown, New Jersey, which is Exit 8.
So you need a license plate that says Exit 8.
People from New Jersey know that, Exit 7 is Springsteen and 9 is New Brunswick, Rutgers. So, you know your exits if you're...
First job is in high school. What grades?
Primarily junior and seniors, 11th and 12th grade.
And you're teaching English?
English, yeah.
Literature or?
Yeah, but also writing. I mean, so much of the 11th grade curriculum back then was the 5-paragraph essay.
Yeah.
Introductory sentence, supporting evidence, conclusion. Pretty much could do that in my sleep after a few years.
Yeah.
Probably my students did do it in their sleep.
and you're also the track coach.
Yeah.
So based on kind of how you grew up and what was interesting, that had to be, man, this is exactly where I want to be.
Yeah. Well, pretty much that's right. I decided though that I wanted to earn a doctorate and move to college. I just found my personality and my interests. I enjoyed college teaching and running. I thought I would at that point, so I've enrolled in a doctoral program, hoping to be a college professor. But what happened, and I worked for a long time, earning a doctorate. I think I was not a graduate student, but a graduate student. It took me, I was coaching. My timing was perfect. This is at Brown University in Providence, Rhode Island, and new head coach in track and field. And I don't know that he hired me because he didn't pay me the first couple of years, but I became the distance coach at Brown. And that was an amazing experience. I was teaching and coaching at a university level. But when I finally finished the doctorate, and finally finished is the right two words there, I couldn't get a job. I couldn't get a university job.
What year was this?
1993.
Yeah. So you come out of school and the jobs just aren't there.
I probably wasn't what they were looking for. I was crazy enough to think there ought to be a way to coach and teach at a university, and that's just not how things are. You're either
going to be a coach or a
teacher. Yeah, and I wasn't doing cutting edge scholarship, and I was really interested in the topic of resilience. I mean, I had done and other jobs with kids who were just amazing to me in the resilience that they showed, and I decided I wanted to write a dissertation, and I did on what builds resilience in kids, especially kids who are really facing hard challenges. And, now there's a lot of work on resilience. At the time that I was doing it, it really was the beginning of a new field. What you had very commonly was people studying sort of the pathologies of what forced kids to drop out of school, what forced kids to get in trouble, or what were the influences that drew kids into trouble. And this was a whole body of research that, because I had worked summers in a bunch of different programs and got to know a lot of kids, I realized, there's a need to see what builds a resilience. Because I was an English major, right?
Yeah.
I used autobiography as a way into that, and it was broadly multidisciplinary or whatever the word is. But think about Maya Angelou's story, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, right? There's a young girl raped at a young age. She is silent for almost a year, and she comes out of that. Well, you can and becomes a really important person and has a voice. You can see that in, I read and used 50 different autobiographies of young authors who, as young people, had really faced just incredible challenges and yet overcame them. And that fascinated me. Look, sorry.
No, I like this topic.
Talking about your dissertation 50 years after you wrote it is pretty dreadful.
Well, no, I don't think so, because you've taken what at the time was, as you said, kind of the track that people who disadvantaged kids had, but it wasn't really looking at the ones who were disadvantaged and having success,
right?
And tapping into that resiliency.
Yep.
So was there a common thread among those who were resilient, or was it just an individual?
No, absolutely a common thread, and it's still a common thread today. And the first and most important thing is an adult who absolutely believes in that child, absolutely unconditional love. Can be a parent. For a lot of these kids, it was not a parent. With Maya Angelou, it was her grandmother, but there was somebody. It could be a scoutmaster. A lot of times it's a teacher, but it's somebody who believes in the worth of that child and the value. And I read so many autobiographies, and nobody had thought about that really, but the commonality was this unconditional love and this belief in a child. There are also opportunities to excel. There was something they did and that they became good at. And part of that was the feedback loop, right, of the person they loved, praising them for their success at whatever it was. Right. But they began to believe in their own personal the efficacy, their own capacity to be successful. And those two things were really central. And, what I found in all, again, we're talking about a dissertation from 50 years ago, though you can still buy it on Amazon. I think we sold 4 copies last year.
And what's the title of the book?
Narratives of Resilience.
There you go.
Yeah,
I'm going to have to check it out.
No, you don't. My mother read it. My 3 dissertation advisors read it, and I read it. Well, my wife read it too. I think there are 5 of us.
But here's what I like about it, is because you're absolutely right. You can't underestimate the influence that someone believing in someone else can have for that person.
Especially someone who has lived in a world that in a million cues and signs and words says you're not very valuable. Yeah. These kids that were particularly vulnerable around issues of poverty, oftentimes about issues of difference, whether it was race or gender or whatever. But somebody cut through all that negative and said this, you are of worth. And that, I think that's one of the reasons I'm so committed to public education teachers, because they are so crucial to so many young people. Whether it's a young person on Signal Mountain or it's a young person in a really distressed community, teachers are really important figures, and they play that role, and I've seen it, from the incredible good fortune I've had working at Public Education Forward for a quarter century, is to interact with just some amazing, amazing teachers who I doubt they even think of themselves in terms of building resilience, right? They go to work every day and they do the hard work of educating in a society that sends a lot of mixed messages about education.
How many times do you think a typical teacher has heard from a past student what a positive influence they were and didn't know it?
Absolutely. It happens. One of the things I did when I first came into my role is it was a good act for a while. If I was speaking to a group, I'd stop and ask everybody to stop and think for a minute. and I'll do it here with you. Can you think of a teacher who changed your life?
Yes.
That's true for every group of people I've ever talked with, and some people have 2 or 3 or 4. Almost everybody has one. They are the linchpin to the development of young people, and that is something I learned from my dissertation. But it was also, one of the great good fortunes I had when I was in graduate school. I part-time gig to make some money. I did interviews with kids who had dropped out of the Providence public schools. And again, we did interviews all over the city, and Providence now is sort of she, but it was a rough city in the 80s and 90s.
Well, it's got a reputation of being associated with the I don't even want to say the mob, but the mob.
With good reason.
Yeah. You can get a good Italian meal in Providence.
Yeah. Well, you absolutely can, but there also was some violence, the likes of which looked like Hollywood when I was there. But we went all over the city, or I went all over the city interviewing kids who had dropped out of school. And again, they were so smart and so talented, and yet they're high school dropouts.
Yeah.
And that, that experience was also what informed I was just really interested in that, and that led to the dissertation. And I got an opportunity later on to work with a group of community leaders and the president of the University of Rhode Island to do a study of the Providence public schools.
Is that the Providence Blueprint?
Somebody's done some homework for you.
A little homework. How about that?
Unfortunately, the acronym there is PROBE, Providence Blueprint for Education. It was a very tough study, but Providence public schools were just monstrously ineffective back in those times. But just to kind of, I think, get back to an observation. So when I was 30, I had worked for 8 years to get a doctorate, and I couldn't get a job, and it was a dark time.
Yeah.
And yet all those voices of the kids that I talked to really, I was not, I'd go home. My sister was a teacher. My other sister was a teacher. My father was a college professor. My mother was a kindergarten teacher, and I was working in some nonprofit somewhere. So I didn't, I guess, in my mind, it's interesting how you look at it, but I think in the intro you referred to me as an educator. I wish I were. I don't think that's what I've done. I've worked trying really hard to support educators and education, but I didn't sit in the last. I've done some adjunct teaching and all that, but I didn't do the hard work.
But you teach the teachers.
I don't.
Yeah.
I work in an organization that does, but
I call myself a broadcaster. But I was administration. I was management. I don't know how to edit. We talked about it.
Yeah, but right now you're sitting in front of a microphone, doing an interview.
That's just because I talk. That's just because I talk a lot.
You and me both.
Yeah. But in listening to you tell, kind of the background, that desire to find out the why and how you can make those things better for particularly the disadvantaged kids. And the ones who don't have an advocate.
Yeah. That's, as you and I have talked a little bit before, I'm going to stop being at Public Education Forward at the end of this month. And it's been a wonderful, long 27-year run.
So you're retiring?
I am retiring.
Well, congratulations.
Thanks. It's been a wonderful, when we came here from Providence, Rhode Island, I thought 5 years. I never imagined. We just fell in love with the community. The job was incredible. Our kids flourished here. So we stayed. And now, today's my birthday. I'm well along in years. Let's just say that. And it's time for the next chapter in our life.
That's good for you. It's interesting. You said, I thought I'd be there 5 years.
Yeah.
Because I moved here 26 years ago and thought I'd be here too, because that's kind of what you did in television. You moved to larger markets. And we've talked to a number of people who kind of the same thing, their job brought them here. And you get here, and your kids start to make friends, and you start to look around, and particularly the time both of us arrived here.
Yep.
You saw the metamorphosis of Chattanooga from, we may not have experienced the 70s and 80s when it was really not the place you want it to be, but you started to see the butterfly come out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The other thing that I saw that I just think is different here, and if you grew up here or have been here a long time, you may have forgotten how different it is. And that's some of this is about the work that I do or that I'm involved with, but the ability of the private sector and the public sector to come together and work together for the betterment of the community.
That doesn't happen other places.
It doesn't happen very well in other places. Yeah. It certainly didn't happen in Providence, Rhode Island, and but here it happens all the time. Everything we did that I'm proud of at Public Education Forward had a public, a private, and a nonprofit partner who came together and made a difference. And that is just in the water, or I guess I should say in
DNA.
The coffee. Oh, in the coffee.
In the coffee. I like that. And
that's how we do things. Yeah, it's how we do things. And it really does bring strength and extraordinary opportunity. And I saw that, the night before I came down for the first interview for the position. My mother, I talked to my mom a lot back then, and I said, look, you do not have to worry. Melinda and I are not going to move your only grandchildren 1,000 miles from you. Don't worry. I'm just going down to see, Norm, a friend of mine, says you really got to look at this job. So I came down, and again, famously wrong.
Just like I'm not going to Princeton.
Yeah, I'm a good predictor of the future.
What else are you not going to do in retirement so we know what you're going to do?
I'll find out. Interesting. Yeah. So this is a special place, and at the work that I did, we've had amazing partnerships with UNUM, with the VW group, with Benwood, with Lyndhurst, with McKinsey Foundation, with so many different partners who want to make a difference. That's unique here, and really, I didn't stay 5 years. I stayed 25, 27 in one job, which I find kind of amazing.
Let me take you back just a little bit, because I do want to talk more about PEF.
Yeah.
But you were in Providence. I want to know, not just a friend asking you to interview, what got you here, what drove you to get here, but you also had a pretty big mentor in Providence, didn't you? You want to talk a little bit about him?
Yeah, that and that's also, in a sad way, part of how I came here. After I finished my PhD and couldn't get a job, and at that point was married, and we had 2 kids. So I needed to...
Little pressure?
Yeah, it was moving. Actually, when I started the dissertation, I was single and not dating. When I finished the dissertation, I was married with 3 kids. So it took a while, right? Yeah. But didn't have... I had this opportunity when I gave up on a college job to work with the president of the University of Rhode Island, a man named Ted Eddy, who had just retired from URI and had been really troubled by the number of kids from the Providence Public School District who had come down to URI and not made it. And so his retirement was to lead a community effort to try and strengthen the Providence public schools. That was Providence Blueprint for Education, PROBE. And I worked with Dr. Eddy for 8 years, and he was a mentor to me, a professional mentor, the most important one I ever had. He was extraordinary in his vision and very tough. He was a minister, in his degree was in divinity, and we used to talk about sometimes the famous sermon by Jonathan Edwards, "Sinners in the hands of an angry God." Sometimes it just felt like, when you had done wrong or done something stupid, Dr. Eddie would very clearly inform you of your error in your ways.
But there was no second guessing.
But he was extraordinary, and we worked together for 8 years. He died of cancer, and the joy went out of the job.
Yeah.
And a friend who had done some work with the Chattanooga Public Education Foundation, and I knew he was in New York. He said, "You just got to go down." And, the truth is, he said, true story, if for no other reason, you will have lunch with Ruth Holmberg. And I know people all over the city of New York who would, if they had a chance to drive down, take a train down, fly down, and have lunch with Ruth, they would go. And so I took him up on that advice. And, here 30 years later, I'm still here.
So you take that chance. You've been in the Northeast your whole life, been in New Jersey, you've been in Rhode Island, and this opportunity comes up. What was it that attracted you enough to say, you know what, I'm going to do this?
You're right. It was a huge leap for us. I'd say three things. One, like I said, I saw the opportunity here. I saw the business community, the foundation community, and the school district willing to work together. And I'd been through 10 years in Providence watching them throw bricks at each other. So that was appealing to me. We also had our kids in public school in Providence, and we're really frustrated with the experience they had. And we came down and looked at schools in Chattanooga, and there's no question there were some that were struggling, but there are also some great schools. And my wife's a school teacher. She's the expert on that, and she said this would be better for our kids. And that was a major driver for us at that point. You'll do anything for your kids. You'll do anything for your kids. And we looked at the schools, and I'm not an expert, but I saw what was happening to at that point, our son and our daughter were in the Providence Public Schools, and we just weren't happy with what was happening. And we came down, and we felt really good about it. And the truth is, contrary to what sometimes you see and hear, our three kids got great educations. They all graduated from Hamilton County Public High Schools. They all went on, graduated from college, and they are all employed and making a living.
Yeah. So it was really, really the opportunity to do what you've been building up to do.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. It was a great opportunity, very different. I mean, with Probe, we were much more focused on policy and advocacy. And here at Public Education Forward, we're much more focused on professional learning opportunities for teachers and things that's much more sort of professional development, not as much. I don't spend much time in Nashville.
Yeah. So PEF had a director before you?
Yes.
So it was in existence, and it was originally called Public Education Foundation.
Right.
And it's just been recently last 2 years?
Last 3 months.
Oh, last 3 months. That's pretty
we
darn
just
recent.
Became Public Education Forward, and we did that for a couple of reasons. One, we think education is in a really crucial moment right now. It feels to us and to many people that it's really under attack, and we want to see it continue to move forward. Everybody I work with and almost everybody I see are passionate about the importance and the value of public education. There have to be strong public schools for any community to thrive, and certainly for all kids to have an equal chance. So we're really committed to public education moving forward. And then the other thing, and we're not a foundation, right?
Right.
Foundations have money, right?
We ain't got money.
No, we're like a community-based organization, and we raise money. So the name was confusing, but also I think more importantly, it's about moving public education forward. I think everybody can agree we want good public schools.
When you said that public education is under attack in terms of the quality of students they're putting out, or under attack in terms of people trying to determine what books you can read and can't read,
I would say I think there are a lot of people now who are saying that we've given up on public schools. We'll send our kids outside of the public realm. I think you see that dramatically in the vouchers that are now in this state, but in any number of things that are said about public schools. And I'll say this, if the public schools don't succeed, this will be a very different place. And I think we all have to sort of look that one straight in the eye and say it is critical for everyone, whether you are retired, whether you have your kids in private school, whether you homeschool them, or whether you do like 40,000 kids in Hamilton County School go to school every day. This has to be successful. And look, the data I saw in the paper as I came in today, it's better and better.
Yeah.
People need to look at the data and say, wow, this is a school district that's moving in the right direction, is making progress. All the naysayers and all the brick throwers come into a Chattanooga public school, a Hamilton County school, and you will be impressed. I go in and out of schools surely every week, if not every day, probably every week now. And I see teachers every day. They're extraordinary places. And people who have opinions but haven't been in a public school need to go into a public school and then have an opinion, not the other way around, because what you may know about you got from some source that hasn't been in a public school either. Sorry if I'm getting up.
No.
I'm sitting up straight and talking into the microphone, but I'm very passionate about how important this moment is for public education.
How much more difficult does having 3 world-class high schools, private high schools in this town, make the job of public education? Because when you get some of those data points and you're pulling out arguably some top-tier students that, if they were going to public school, would make those data points look better.
Look, there's no question it doesn't make it easier. There's no question it makes it harder. But I do think they're different issues, right? Most people can't afford $40,000 to go to one of those schools. That's a tiny subset. I'll say, I shouldn't say it. I don't need to pick a fight here, but it baffles me why high-income parents should receive state support to send them to schools that don't educate all kids. And I don't understand the logic to that, and I worry what the future will hold in the growth of that. I did some pro bono work with public education funds in Florida for the last 3 or 4 years, and I saw the impact of the voucher program in the Florida public schools. And it's significant, and it's not in the interest of all kids.
Isn't one of the statistics with vouchers that the majority of those vouchers are going to families that already have their kids in private school, and it's not really necessarily an alternative for someone trying to find a better school?
In Florida, it's 76%. The data I've seen for Tennessee is in the low 70s. Their kids have never been in public school.
Yeah. So it's just a transfer of money.
It's a stipend or, a discount.
Yeah.
And again, I'm quoting the Tennessean here. I think a clear majority of the people who get vouchers are making well over $100,000.
But does that not take available funds out of public schools and transfer them to those who want to apply them to private schools?
I think the governor would say no. But I've seen what happened when this expands, and it's just a matter of time. In Florida, which is 3 times as many students as Tennessee, Florida has 3 million students, we have 1 million. They're spending $4.4 billion this year.
On vouchers?
On vouchers.
Wow.
So if we go the Florida route, it'll be $1 billion. I don't know where you find $1 billion.
Yeah.
But I think more importantly, let's put that argument aside. I shouldn't have brought it in. I think we have to invest in public schools. Here's what I'm really worried about. I've been following per pupil investment, what states spend. ever since I've been here and back in Providence days. One source that I consistently use, it's a good source. Tennessee this year is now dead last in the U.S. Tennessee is 50th of 50 states in per pupil investment.
Less than Mississippi?
I checked this fact. You can check it if you want. Yeah. We used to, when I came to Chattanooga, it was, thank God for Mississippi.
Exactly.
To catch up in per pupil spending to Mississippi, which is the next lowest southern state, we would have to increase our investment by $2 billion. We're not even close to Mississippi.
How'd we get here?
We haven't been paying attention to public schools.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying we. I mean, the teachers who go to work every day, the teachers are over at Public Education Forward this morning in what is supposed to be summer vacation, but they are honing their skills. They're paying attention to public schools. Yeah. We have got to pay attention to public schools. Look, money isn't everything. I've been in this work for 40 years. Spending more money doesn't necessarily mean everything, but you can't be dead last.
No.
You can't be dead last. Tennessee, according to another study that I watch every year, reduced the number of teachers proportionately more than any state in the union for 3 years. We are shedding teacher positions. My research, that I was talking about my dissertation from 30 years ago, but it's still true. Adults make a difference in the life of a child.
Yeah.
And if you keep... I believe this is accurate. Howard High School will have 16 fewer teachers next year than it had this year. 16 adults.
How many total teachers would they have if they were fully staffed?
I think about 140.
Yeah, so it's a 15%.
Right, and some of that is students moving around.
Yeah.
But at some point, you've cut and you've cut and you've cut.
You're down to the bone.
And to me, the canary in the coal mine here is when you have fewer teachers and teachers begin to see other options.
Yeah.
We're on a slippery slope. And
when you say we haven't paid attention, I'm assuming you're meaning the voters. More than anything else, because the politicians are going to do what the politicians are going to do or what their party dictates. The voters have not said, wait a second here, this is not the way to go.
We need to, the 50th out of 50 is a...
No one wants to be that.
Well, everybody used to say, thank God for Mississippi. Yeah. Now you know what they say?
Yeah, thank God for Tennessee.
So that's just, to me, I believe in public education and I believe in the role of teachers in the lives of kids. And to get to your point, absolutely, it's economic development.
Yeah.
If you don't have an educated workforce, you are not going to get the jobs you want.
And I want you to talk about that a little bit before we run out of time because we're getting towards the end. But that all kind of rolls up into this. So we're now 50th, and there's a big business kind of come in and say, well, let's see where Tennessee stands. Why would they choose Tennessee if you're 50th in public education?
Well, I don't think they ever choose states. They choose communities, right? And Chattanooga has made good progress. I think, as I say, you go in, what we would say is come into a school with a VWE lab, a digital fabrication lab. Come into a school, we've got amazing teachers all over the district. You take people to see those places, you can still attract businesses. But we got to pay attention. We got to pay attention because 50th there's nowhere to go but up.
Yeah. Along those lines of what we should be doing, you're getting ready to retire. You've had a great run at Public Education Forward.
Thanks.
What do you see the role of PEF as you leave it, and what do you hope it to be in the next 10 years?
Well, look, I got up and went to work every day for 27 years. I didn't have a lot of time reflecting on, where we are. Because you invited me to do this and because I'm retiring, I have had a minute or two. Yeah. I think what's the great opportunity right now for education and Public Education Forward, PEF is a strong organization, and there are other strong organizations. We don't know what the future holds, but we do know teachers are central to it and principals are central to it. And for us, we recruit and train teachers who want to work in high need schools. There are 14 graduates of our school, of our program, PEF teacher residency at Howard. We know that works. I think we'll grow that. We've started a lot of work thanks to Volkswagen's investment in digital fabrication. I think we will grow that. We have always worked on helping kids be the first in their family not only to go to college, but to graduate from college. We work in the space between high school and college in the first year beyond that. I think that work stays, and you were kind enough to come over to our new offices. That's a place, and says this is a place where teachers and principals are honored and treated with respect. And the next iteration, I mean, I know we have started to work with the district around AI, because right now, like most school districts, you can't use AI in Hamilton County. That's not a good long-term strategy. I don't know much about AI. Well, I know something about AI, and it's not going away.
Yeah.
So if we want to prepare kids for jobs in the future, we've got to figure out how to do that. We are, Michael Stone, he talked to Rotary 3-4 months ago, districts working with us and Michael to begin thinking, and business leaders, people who do this every day. How do you use AI? How do you help teachers with it? How do you help principals with it? And most importantly, how can kids use it responsibly? It's going to be I think it will be a major disruptor and force in our business community and the world.
It already is.
Yeah. I mean, frankly, it gave me really good advice for this interview yesterday. I'll tell you what it said. But we use it every day. We've got to get kids to be really
It's a tool.
And a powerful tool.
Very powerful tool.
So I don't want to say what I think PEF should do. I've had my time. I've worked really hard. The next leader will take it to the next phase. But I think artificial intelligence is part of the work. I think teacher preparation is part of the work.
So I want to thank our sponsors, EPB and Rockpoint Bank. Get EPB fiber optics for the world's fastest community-wide internet, and Rockpoint Bank, your local banking partner, your business, your bank, your future. All right, here's the last question for you, Dan. And this is a good one to reflect on your birthday. What would you tell that 25-year-old Dan Challener is important for a happy life?
Well, what has made me happiest is my marriage and my kids. And that's a major part of my life. And I'm just blessed to have a wonderful wife and 3 kids that I love and love being around. If you're asking about work, for me, it's just I think I never imagined when I was in high school or college or even beyond that I would be working in a nonprofit in Tennessee. I thought I'd be teaching. But you follow your passions. I say it all the time at PEF. We don't always do the work right, but I'm absolutely convinced that we are doing the right work. I care about this work. It can drive me crazy some days, but I never doubt that it's worth doing. And there are lots of different answers for lots of different people about that, but doing what you really care about, what you believe in, what on the worst days and the worst nights, you still say, I'm trying to do something that I believe in. And that's, how I ended up here, which is just different than, doing what I thought I would do, but I have no regrets.
We're fortunate you ended up here. Your passion is obvious.
Thanks.
They're gonna have to look pretty hard to find someone.
They will,
and I'm sure they will. But I think you've set us on a good track, and I've really enjoyed getting to know you over the years. And congratulations on the retirement.
Hey, thanks a lot, and thanks for inviting me to do this.
Oh, absolutely.
It's given me a chance to reflect and think. And it's been this is an amazing community, and I'm just deeply, deeply grateful.
It really is. And we're fortunate for a lot of things, but we're fortunate to be here together at this time.
We are.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening to My Morning Cup, a podcast by Consta Media Advisors. If you liked this episode, please share it with a friend. I release a new episode each week, so be sure to subscribe on Spotify, Apple, Google, or wherever you listen to podcasts.